Hey guys, what is up? It is REC Coach here today, and today I want to talk to you about a topic that I think needs to be addressed because people get a little bit confused when it comes to this. Now, what I'm referring to is the difference between training for health and fitness and well-being and training for competition. Now, I know this is something that a lot of people struggle with, possibly from a self-identity point of view. It could also be from a transitional point of view. Maybe you have been an athlete and now you're going back to being just a regular person, just training for your general health and fitness. Or maybe you're somebody who that's really all you want, but you're training like an athlete when it's not really what you need. Now, when we look at training, we can kind of take a very strategic breakdown of it, and we think about it in terms of load, volume, intensity. If your goal is to just be a better dad, a better mum, maybe your goal is just to feel lean, to feel like good when you look at yourself naked in front of the mirror. Maybe your goal is to just maybe you're really unhealthy right now and you just need to improve your health. Like, that could just mean maybe right now you get sick all the time because you're not eating well, and you need to improve how you eat to improve your health so that you're not sick all the time. Maybe it's just energy levels. If that's your main goal, it's just general health and well-being and just feeling like a good functional person who can go traveling and do whatever you want to do when you travel, then this is the truth. The truth is maybe you don't need to train all the time. You probably don't need to train every day. What you probably need is a few good training sessions a week, a few training sessions where you feel out of breath, you get yourself out of breath, and you get some form of cardiovascular activity happening, which would be in any format where you're being out of breath. It could be something simple and monostructural, like going for a run, doing a long row, nothing crazy, nothing super exciting, just something that gets you out of breath. It could be a regular workout, it could be a regular CrossFit workout that you just do and gets you out of breath. What you want to do is you want to get sweaty, you want to make sure to get your body temperature up. So whether that's with weights, any form of weight will really do that for you, any form of endurance training after a certain point. And the other thing is you want to be able to lift something so that A, you increase your bone density in your body, so that you lower your chances of hurting yourself as you get older. And the other thing is just to maintain, keep your lean muscle and build some lean muscle. The more muscle you have, the stronger you're going to be, the better you're going to feel, and just the better overall your body's going to be functioning. So if that's your goal, if you're first starting out, maybe you just need to train once or twice a week, and that's really it. If you're an everyday Joe who's in pretty good shape, maybe you just need 3 to 4 good workouts every week. And that doesn't mean that you have to train like crazy. It just means you do something at a high intensity 3 to 4 times a week. And then on some weeks where you don't feel as good because you've got the stresses of life, or your job, or kids, or whatever, then on those days you just deload as such. And what that means is that it's okay to take a week off. It's okay to take a week where you do easy things, because it's all about this long-term plan of, will I be training 10 years from now, not next year? Will I be training 20 years from now, not tomorrow? We always put so much emphasis on just like how hard am I training today, and I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. And it's this constant concept of life isn't this big short sprint. It's a marathon. It's about this long term. Now, if we contrast everything that we just said about maybe having a moderate amount of intensity, volume to our training, and not training every day, let's look at competition. Now, whenever we think about training for competition, we need to think about, when are we competing? Are we competing this year? Is that when we want to compete? Are we competing next week? Are we competing 3 years from now? When you're aiming to peak, which is being in your best physical state, is when you start working backwards from there. So if your goal is something like, maybe you did the Open this year, and maybe you didn't do as well as you wanted to, and all you really want is to just improve your score for next year, then you can start working towards, when will the Open generally be? It's generally done at the same time every year, and you start working backwards from that and building a plan. And you can do something really simple, like look at where your strengths were, look at where your weaknesses were, and can you improve your strengths? Can you keep your strengths the same and a little bit better, and also really bring up your weaknesses? And then again, it doesn't mean you have to train every day. It just means maybe you have to be more strategic about your training. Maybe you have to be more consistent about your training. Some people just need consistency in their training. Some people, out of 7 days over the week, they say they're going to train 5, but they only ever train 3 or 2. So for you, it's not about even being strategic about what you're doing or not doing. Maybe it's just actually making all the sessions that you say you're going to make. For other people, it's being strategic with their training. Maybe all of your training is really biased, which means that you're preferring a certain type of training to doing mostly bodyweight movements. And let's say that you need to put on a bit of size, you need to get a little bit stronger. Maybe for you, what you need to do is be lifting more weights. So looking at following a strength plan or lifting the weights you do in your workouts. Maybe for you, the strategic bias that you need is something that fixes some of the imbalances that you have. Maybe you are like really strong with your lower body, but not very strong in your upper body. Maybe you just aren't very strong at gymnastics movements, which tend to be all very upper body dominant. So looking at things like that and just thinking about, okay, like when is my goal and how long do I have to prepare for that? The longer you have to prepare for any goal, especially a competitive goal, the better chances you're going to have of doing well at that. But if you just look at something short term and think, okay, I need to be ready for a competition in 1 month, you're going to probably overtrain or train too much. And unless you're really young and you're a 21-year-old guy or girl who just has heaps of, testosterone in them and heaps of energy and motivation, like chances are if you train super hard, you're gonna crash. And not everybody comes back from a crash. And it's why so many people struggle with motivation at the gym, because they identify themselves as this person who trains all the time, is crazy about training, train. And once we define ourselves entirely with that persona or that identity, if anything happens to that, like let's say we get an injury, or let's say that we hurt ourselves, doing something, or we just get fatigued, or we get adrenal fatigue, or something happens in our life that stops us from training, physically stops us from getting here. Maybe your car breaks down, maybe you lose your job, maybe you can't afford that coach that you've always gone to, whatever it is. If anything changes to your training and it affects your identity, then that's going to affect your motivation, and you're going to have a whole different psychological spew of things that you have to personally deal with. So looking at all these things and looking at where does your identity as a person come from, it's really important to understand that, and understand that for you to be successful at training long term, if you're too attached to your identity of what you do, how hard you work and what you do, if anything affects that, then it's also going to have this self-fulfilling prophecy associated with it, where if that gets affected, then you might get affected emotionally, and then you might be less likely to train if you just have more of a strategic approach to your training as such, more of a methodical approach to your training, where you look at it like, this is what I have to get done, this is how I'm going to do it, I'm going to schedule time to relax and to recover, and I'm going to have a better plan about how to train, which is why recovery is as important as your training if you're training a lot. Anyway, that's my food for thought for today, guys. I just think there's something that a lot of people need to hear. So a lot of people out there, maybe you need to train a little bit less. You need to be okay with taking rest days. Go hard when you feel good, don't when you don't. And on the other side, if you're a competitive athlete, think about like, when are you really peaking? Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, when do you actually think you'll be ready to achieve the goal you want to achieve? If you want to do it next month, probably not giving yourself the adequate amount of time you need. But if it's a long-term goal, like a 1-year goal, you've got plenty of time to be really strategic, to build time to work hard and to give time to yourself to recover and to rebuild. Anyway, that's all for me today, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Follow the podcast, subscribe to this channel. Take care and peace.